Hi, are you looking to study abroad in England? I'm Tyler Mathowitz, and I'm about to tell you what you need to know before you go. First, let me tell you a little bit about myself. I'm an undergraduate student here in the United States, studying in the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire. I'm planning on studying abroad my spring semester of 2018 as a sophomore, where I've been accepted into the Winchester program in England. In preparation for this, I have done a formal research paper on international customs and etiquette, and I am now pursuing this video in researching and describing to you what you, as well as myself, need to know before studying abroad in England. As you can see, England is surrounded by the Atlantic Ocean and is relatively north in the world. Because of this, the weather is, well, quite honestly, undesirable. Generally, it is overcast, but not raining, with moist air and a gentle breeze, and temperatures ranging between 50 and 60 degrees Fahrenheit, or 10 to 16 degrees Celsius, year-round. Do not oftentimes receive rain, but instead, England is known for having mist or drizzle throughout the entire day, and it will be just enough to get your clothes wet. Because of the irregular weather patterns within England, the English take full advantage of their rare weather. During the summer, it is not uncommon to see a man on a sunny day take off his shirt and bask in the sun. During the winter, however, the entire country will shut down if there's a snowstorm, due to the little bit of infrastructure that they have to remove snow, especially within the cities. However, snowstorms are quite uncommon in England and only happen every 3 to 4 years. So it's nothing that you should probably have to worry about. Now let's move on to talking about the people within England. The first thing you might notice is how many people that you see that aren't truly from England. This is because there are over 1.5 million foreigners in London alone, let alone the rest of the country. Griffith, with Oxford University, states that the United Kingdom is more globally connected than the United States, so do not expect just a British experience when you travel abroad, but a global one. Many people have the assumption that the English people are quite mean and rude. This, however, is very far from the truth. Orin Hargraves, the author of Culture Shock London, believes that this assumption comes from the media. The English people are commonly very polite. They will go out of their way not to bother others. They will apologize for every little thing, such as running into you or causing the slightest disturbance. They will sit there and thank you after they have done a favor for you. They will eat a meal at a restaurant and grumble about it the entire time if they don't like it, but they will never even think about bringing it up to the waiter or waitress because they do not want to cause a mess. This, however, is not true for the English media. They will oftentimes be rude or mean to whoever they are reporting on, and oftentimes will have a quite large bias depending on where they are funded. The English people do not like to show strong emotions, such as shouting or crying, as it is seen as disgraceful. You should carry this idea when you travel to England studying abroad. However, there is one exception to this rule, and that, of course, would be at a football game, where you are expected to be loud and rowdy, cheering for the home team at all times. Along with the lack of strong emotions, the English pride themselves in having sovereignty. They have no desire to get into someone else's personal issues and try to stay as neutral as possible, especially in the workplace. The Culture Shock book series recommends that everyone who travels to England should watch a little bit of the BBC, the British Broadcasting Centre, on the television, or the telly as they call it in England, to initialize yourself with the accents within England and the class system. Now let's talk about traveling around the UK and the rest of Europe. England is a hub for many international flights, especially those that are intercontinental. Many flights will stop in England and then have a connection flight into their final destination. This means that most flights from England will be very cheap, and you can get around for as little as $75 through the continent of Europe. Public transportation in England is the butt of many British jokes. It is very slow, but however, it is quite dependable. It is used by a large portion of English men and women, but can be very difficult to figure out the first few times. It is suggested that you just keep trying, because sooner or later you will become quite comfortable with it, and you will be able to get around England and the rest of the UK quickly, and it'll make you feel like you're more at home because you will be able to access transportation in a quick and easy way. If all else fails, you can always walk or bike around England. Bike lanes in England are oftentimes considered a hassle because you have to take the same lane as buses and taxis, which mean that you will slow down taxis and buses and you will get stuck in their exhaust pipe fumes. However, walking can also be a mess because the sidewalks are oftentimes busy and it oftentimes rains. The railway is a common way to travel throughout England. However, recently it has become a problem because it has been privatized in a way that companies throughout England have taken it over in different regions, even throughout the city of London. This has caused it to be quite confusing to get around, and tickets will be a very weary mess, even for those who live in England. However, if you do decide to take this, booking early is the way to do it to ensure less confusion and the best deal for your ticket. When traveling to England, like anywhere else in the world, one must bring clothing, and one must bring clothing that will specifically work for the area that they are traveling. Of course, one needs to bring shoes, shirt, pants, underwear, and socks. But here is a list of things that are crucial to your comfort when traveling in England. You should bring a warm set of gloves, a hat and scarf to keep you warm during the colder English winter days, a waterproof jacket to keep the drizzle and other rain off of you. You should bring clothing that provides easy layers that you can take on and off as you travel between buildings, indoors and out. You should bring a pair of dress clothes, preferably some that do not wrinkle. When you're in England, you cannot wear sweatpants or baggy sweatshirts as it is seen as unrespectful and it is not appropriate for public wear. You should bring an umbrella to keep you dry, similar to the waterproof jacket. And if you plan to travel, you should prepare for that by bringing a pair of hiking boots, backpacking backpack, a tent, etc., as well as a good pair of running shoes. Some other necessities that one should bring when studying abroad in England is a laptop so that one can do online homework and surf the internet, a camera to document your experience and your new global friends, a phone or iPod so that you can have music and videos as well as games to entertain you on the long trips. But one must remember that England is based on a 240 volt electrical system compared to the 120 volt system that we have here in America. Before leaving, one may want to invest in an adapter for their electronics. If not, they can be purchased in England as well. Another important asset that one should bring is 200 to 300 pounds of currency so that whenever you're stuck in a tight situation, you'll have a little bit of money, as well as emergency travel checks that you can use in case your credit card gets taken away because of fraud, or if you lose it, or if there's anything else that causes you not to be able to use an ATM or your checking account. Of course, one must bring their passport and visa when traveling to England so that they can get in the country in the first place, and should have an emergency contact list so that if anything happens, they will have someone to contact that is back home so that they know. Another thing that you should do before leaving for England is to update all of your prescriptions and have them renewed right before you leave. If they are set to expire during your time in England, one may have to receive a note from their doctor so that they can be renewed during their time abroad. And some prescriptions may require a doctor's note for you to get them into England. Another thing is that you should update all of your vaccines right before you leave, that you may have to receive vaccinations while in England, some of which may not be covered by your American insurance. I'd like to congratulate you for your great choice in the country that you chose to study abroad. While I may be a little bit biased by the way that I am studying abroad here as well, England is known for being one of the best undergraduate education programs in the world. Here's some advice given by a staff member at the University of Winchester. You may find as an international student that the teaching methods used by lecturers can be different from any you have been used to. The relationship between staff and students is often more relaxed and informal, and high importance is placed on the students' ability to take responsibility for their education and organize their own time. The UK system assumes students will develop through independent learning. It is common that for a class, there will be one large lecture a week where you will meet with around 80 people in a classroom, and then you will later in the week have a smaller lecture with 10 to 15 students where you will get to build a relationship with the professor or lecturer, as they are called in England. Many people state that the education that is in England may be more difficult than it is here in America. This, however, may not be the case. The reason that many people say that it is harder is because it is different. Students in England are expected to be more independent learners, oftentimes reading a significantly larger amount of information, but not having homework to make sure that they are caught up on progress. Assessment in England is also quite different than it is here in America. Oftentimes here we take several tests throughout the semester and a final at the end. However, in England, it is quite common to do a small group presentation to display your knowledge and lead discussions for a class period, or to do a large essay, typically 5 to 15 pages, that will be the entire credit for your class. So, the advice given by Winchester staff is to start early. It is common practice for a lecturer to hand out a long reading list at the beginning of a semester. The students are not required to read all of these books, but only 2 to 3. It is suggested that you pay attention to what the professor is looking for, maybe hinting at a certain title or referencing it in any way during a class. This should be a book that you would strongly consider reading. But at the end of the day, whichever one you choose should help you be able to finish your final semester assessment. Grading in England is also quite different. In the United States, an A is anything above a 92, but in England, an A is 65 or above. An F is 40 or below, and in the United States here, it's 65 or below. Now that I've told you about the education system in England, I hope I haven't scared you away from studying abroad. But in case I have, here are a few of the reasons that you should still study abroad. Of course, there is the obvious one where you get to travel and experience a new culture in a way that you probably won't be able to do later in life, at least until you're 65 and retired. Another main reason is that you will learn from a different education system and a different style of learning. Like I said before, in England, it requires students to become more of an independent thinker and learner. This will help you greatly, not only in the rest of your educational career, but also throughout your life at work, at home, and everywhere else and everything else you do. It will also advance your career. It looks great to employers or graduate colleges seeing that you studied abroad. You are willing to take that risk to improve yourself as a better person, learn yourself in a new culture, and be able to be uncomfortable. It shows that you are willing to learn no matter what the cost and the difficulty of it may be. If you plan on traveling, make sure you have plenty of money in your bank account. While you are always told how cheap it is that you can travel around Europe, like I've said, eventually you're going to run short of just spending little bits of money here and there, living in a sleeping bag and eating the British equivalent to ramen. You'll find yourself wanting something a little bit nicer, and eventually you'll have to spend that money. So make sure that you do have enough money and you don't get yourself stuck in a pickle when you're there. You can expand yourself as an individual. You may find yourself some new interests. You may fall in love with cricket or some other weird English tradition. You can also make lifelong friends, many of which will actually come back to America with you because you will bond with the students that you are traveling with just as much as you will bond with students that are already living in England. And it promotes your independence as a student, individual, and overall. And this may be the only chance that you have that you can travel to a country for this long of a time, so you should take full advantage of it. Now that I've said all of these things, I want to thank you all for watching. I hope that you have a great experience when you're studying abroad and that you learn a lot, expand yourself as an individual, and just have an overall fantastic time. Now, no amount of preparation from this video will be able to help you be fully prepared, but I hope that I have helped you take a step in the right direction. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.